The word waits in wood, 4 syllables like a heartbeat, carved where voices went silent. No bodies, no smoke, no struggle, only the palisade staring back, patient as dusk. I walk the sand as if it remembers, listening for the colony's last breath. Roanoke's riddle, a settlement established, a birth celebrated, a community erased without a cry. Rewind the reel. Order the hours before the fog rolled over the ledger. 1585, the first attempt. Military faces, hard-edged, cracking relations with Algonquian-speaking neighbors along these waters. 2 years later, 1587, families arrive with hope packed beside iron, seed, and scripture. Among them, Virginia Dare cries into new air, the first English breath here, ever. Governor John White maps promise onto dunes and swamps, then turns toward England for supplies. War answers instead. Sails conscripted by empire, postponing his return with ironclad necessity and weather. Months collapse into years, and the Atlantic keeps its counsel the color of slate silence. August 1590, White lands again, heart thudding like oars. Roanoke looks back, emptied completely. Houses dismantled, not burned. Fortifications unmade with method, not panic or sudden flame here. Chests dug up and rifled, buried things disturbed like seeds forced to sprout knowledge prematurely. No bones, no fire pit stories. No Maltese cross to cry distress, as instructed before, only 2 carvings, Croatoan on a post and Kiero on a nearby tree, standing stubborn. A storm approaches, muttering. White cannot sail to Hatteras, cannot follow the word today. So the trail ends in foam, and our questions begin sharpening like winter wind here. What makes a village unbuild itself and step into the trees without a footprint left? The leading whisper says assimilation. A folding into the Croatoan people across shifting water nearby. Monteo's homeland stands there, Hatteras Island, familiar, friendly, and within paddle-length hope for survival. White had told them, carve the destination if you move, carve a cross for danger. No cross cut the wood. The message reads like calm hands, not chaste feet here. But a word can be a lantern or a decoy. Which light did they follow? Archaeology leans in, brushing centuries from soil, listening where witnesses forgot to speak clearly. On the mainland, a cartographer's hint becomes Site X at the river's confluence today. Sherds of European pottery rest beside native tools, domestic fragments mingled like adopted kin there. Not a vanished city, just a few hearths worth, suggesting dispersal into nearby settlements gradually perhaps. Evidence whispers quantities, not names, yet the broken glaze still remembers European hands briefly. Back on Roanoke, the dismantling speaks. Patience, agreement, and provisions carried with intent, westward or south. Relations were frayed by 1585. Bridges burned before families even pitched canvas dreams here. Friendly ties endured with Croatoan kin, Monteo the envoy between worlds and winters nearby. So the paradox splits, retreat under duress, or a deliberate relocation toward sheltering allies choose. The storm's arrival kept White blind, the Atlantic itself closing the investigation's first file cold. I pocket sand like evidence, grains of time refusing confession under moonlight pressure again. Some point south to Spain, imagining saboteurs from Florida abolishing Raleigh's outpost quietly perhaps, but no broken palisade, no scorch, no scattered remnants of a last stand linger. Others invoke warfare with neighboring tribes, yet the earth withholds battle's signature clutter entirely. Instead, the evidence says packing, walking, trusting a route previously rehearsed in whispers together. Did they split, some to Hatteras, some inland, braiding futures across languages and fires? Perhaps yes. Imagine children trading rhymes beneath live oaks, new words stitching themselves into lullabies softly. Imagine adults bartering iron for grain, stories for shelter, knowledge for a winter's map. To investigate here is to hear absence, a choir humming behind a locked door always. The post with Croatoan becomes a witness stand, wood grain tightening under silent interrogation tonight. I picture White's lantern wobbling, Rain pushing his options toward surrendering daylight reluctantly. He sailed away again, leaving the island to keep the secret unillustrated forever, perhaps. Centuries later, spades ask questions, and artifacts answer in measured, partial syllables only. At Site X, the puzzle refuses melodrama, preferring quiet evidence inside muddy margins instead. European ceramics beside Algonquian hearths suggest threads pulled through two fabrics, intertwining deliberately. Not conquest, not disappearance, rather absorption, lives dissolving into neighboring constellations of shelter nearby. What would they carve if language itself was shifting under their feet? Night asks. I draw a timeline on wet sand. 1585 fracture, 1587 promise, 1590 silence beautifully cold. The ocean erases it without remorse, reminding me who edits primary sources here always. Even the word Croatoan blurs under rain, like ink faltering on a wet confession. We follow the last reliable line. Friends on Hatteras, no distress carved. Dismantled structures, methodical. That constellation points toward survival, not vanishing. Toward community, not massacres, chaos at twilight. Yet why abandon a fort built from sweat, hope, and English expectations of permanence? Perhaps permanence was the illusion. The land required softer roots and wider kinship nets. I imagine a council beneath stars debating hunger, storms, and rumors of Spanish sails. A decision formed not from fear alone, but from arithmetic. Mouths, weather, alliances, distance. Then tools lifted, palisades unlashed, houses folded into the future like careful maps slowly. The colony becomes travelers again, losing English architecture to keep English breath alive somewhere. On Hatteras dunes today, wind writes palimpsests. On mainland fields, sherds glint like breadcrumbs. Every breadcrumb is broken. Every clue refuses surnames, insisting on the plural word, some only. Some moved, some stayed, some married, some died with their stories untranslatable, perhaps forever. In this investigation, silence isn't absence. It's a witness refusing the leading question politely. We approach with humility, inventorying what the record says and what it refuses still. Record says, 115 souls, John White governor, Virginia Dare born, supplies delayed by war. Record says, return in 1590, settlement deserted, Croatoan carved, no distress cross visible. Record says, structures dismantled methodically, chests unearthed, relations complex, Manteo a crucial bridge there. Record suggests, movement toward Croatoan kin. Alternative theories lack battle-stained corroboration entirely. Archaeology adds Site X pottery with native artifacts, hinting inland refuge for some. Timeline secured, we descend into motives. The darkroom where photographs develop slowly, carefully. Hunger wears a crown heavier than loyalty. Storms rewrite calendars without parliamentary consent. Allegiances grow from warmth, not flags. Safety sometimes speaks an unfamiliar language fluently. If you are starving, does home become wherever someone names you kin? Perhaps. The case becomes intimate. A grandmother teaching bread, a hunter mapping tides, a translator listening. I search for fingerprints of kindness, the soft evidence history almost never archives well. Look again at the carving. Not a plea, but perhaps an address forwarded. Consider the chests. Buried, then looted. Time capsules disturbed by opportunists after departure, perhaps. The careful dismantling reads like respect for material, conserving nails, boards, and rope wisely. Not a threnody, but a logistics plan etched across sand and salt marsh pathways. What haunted them wasn't ghosts, but arithmetic. What saved them might have been trust. So I follow trust's footprints across the outer banks, the night brimming with questions still. In the archives, margins whisper, went to Croatoan, but storms erased further ink afterward. If White had reached Hatteras, would we even have a mystery to market now? Mystery sells. Survival hums lower. Harder to film, yet more likely here. Under auroras of heat lightning, I ask the sand what story serves justice best. It answers with a question. Whose memory profits when bodies become rumors? Tell me. We end where we began, At the carving, the post guarding its austere syllables. Croatoan might be a destination, a promise, or a misdirection shaped by rain alone. Which story keeps them most alive in us, the vanishing or the choosing to survive? On Hatteras, archaeologists stoop like monks, trowels whispering. Screens tremble with pottery, shell, and time. Yet nothing shouts, only nods toward neighbors sharing winters nearby, generously. Inland, along Blackwater rivers, sherds surface beside indigenous tools. Fragments negotiate silently, implying households where languages braided, obligations balanced, and survival measured itself in modest hearthlight. Picture two fires answering across distance, one salted by sea wind, one sheltered by cypress. Between them, decisions traveling like embers carried in careful hands tonight. Call them lost, and you privilege disappearance. Call them absorbed, and you honor agency, a community editing itself, refusing the empire's script in favor of survivable grammar. History prefers trumpets. The earth prefers whispers. Roanoke gives us the latter, demanding patience, humility, and courage to accept a solution without spectacle today still. Stand with me beside the Palisades ghost. Listen to rain pronounce Croatoan again. Hear how the syllables sound less like vanishing than directions homeward, perhaps. If the island kept their houses but the people kept their lives, which inheritance matters most to us now?